was in 2004 that we took our first trip, and Eric was just kind of looking to go and see what the situation was in that area. He had contacts with Polera and with Pastor DC and people that he had met when he lived there. And he just wanted to take a team and see what they were doing and see what was going on as far as aid to orphans in that area. It was purely exploratory, just to see, and we were hoping to find a place where we could partner with people, where they had a vision that was really from God and they had a heart for kids. Because a lot of what we ran into was people who were, unfortunately, people who were profiting from this business of running an orphanage, and that wasn't what we wanted. And we just spent the entire time with Joseph and Polera. They were our translators. We drove around the whole country. We visited maybe 5 or 6 different orphanages before we actually ended up in Zomba. That was our very last stop, was at what would become the Fashion Center. It was overwhelming because it's completely different from life here. Just everything from the pace of life to the difficulties that people face. It's really, really hard to put into words. There's so much heartache and pain that it's something that people kind of become numb to. And that was hard to see, that it was breaking our hearts and people didn't really understand why, because they were just used to seeing it all the time. And I think that was my first impression, that this was a really beautiful country. People were so hospitable and kind, but the things that they faced on a daily basis had just left them kind of numb, like spiritually, emotionally, to what was going on. Two weeks before we showed up in the country, a teacher at the Mulunguzi Primary School, Ellen, had decided to start feeding 10 kids from her class. She had noticed them in school that they wouldn't pay attention, that they seemed distracted, and she kind of came to discover that they were orphans, and that the reason they were always distracted in class is because they never had any food. So she just started feeding them breakfast every morning, and she was paying for it herself, and it just started as something really small that she wanted to do for them. And 2 weeks later, we showed up, and we sat down in the headmaster's office of the school with her and the headmaster, Joseph, Polera, and Chilongo, who was an advisor for the Passion Center, and we just talked about what their vision was, what they wanted to get out of doing this for the kids, and their hearts were just exactly spot on. They talked about how this was our responsibility to these children as Christians, as educators, to give them a better future, and they wanted to do that in any way that they could, and it was just a very small way. That they had 10 kids and they were feeding them breakfast, and they wanted to go on from there, but they didn't have the resources. I mean, they had this whole vision of really impacting and turning around the lives of these kids in this community, and it was exactly the kind of partnership we were looking for. The whole vision really developed as more and more interest came up, but in the beginning it was just this idea that these kids, their lives could be so much better, and their lives could have hope that comes from Christ, and knowing that God is someone who really cares for those that nobody else cares for, and that they could know God and know the love of God through our actions of taking care of them and ensuring that they're safe, and they actually have a future. And it's not the same future that their parents had or their grandparents had, but that they can break out of those cycles of poverty and things like that. I was so excited that we had found this exact spot where the entire country had the same need, but there was one area where there were people that we felt we could work with and we could trust. And I was so excited about that. But we also had no idea on our end what we were prepared to be responsible for. We were just two people who were representing a lot of other people. And so I think I was also nervous coming back that other people wouldn't be able to see exactly what we had seen, but I was very pleasantly surprised because everybody right away said this is what we need to do.